In an unexpected and deeply emotional moment, Hollywood legend, Denzel Washington is seen breaking down in tears during a live TV appearance after receiving a surprise call from Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré. What was said on that call left both the audience and viewers around the world stunned. This unforgettable exchange proves that true leadership and respect can transcend borders, cultures, and even fame. It was supposed to be a regular late-night talk show. The audience cheered as Denzel Washington stepped onto the stage, smiling, calm, legendary. The host greeted him with energy-cracking jokes, playing clips from his latest role. But behind Denzel's warm laughter, there was a strange silence in his eyes, like his heart was somewhere else halfway through the show. The host said with a grin, "We've got a little surprise for you tonight. Denzel, a live call from someone very far away." Denzel blinked. What kind of surprise? The screen behind him lit up. A flag appeared. Burkina Faso, confused. Murmurs filled the room. Then came a voice. Strong, respectful, gentle. "Good evening, Mr. Washington. This is Ibrahim Traoré, President of the Transition of Burkina Faso." Denzel froze. The room went silent for the first time in the show's history. You could hear nothing except one man's breath caught in his throat. No one. Absolutely. No one expected what came next. The audience stared. Denzel's hands trembled as the president continued speaking, his French-tinged, English calm, but heartfelt. "You don't know me, Mr. Washington, but when I was 14 years old, I was just a barefoot boy in Burkina Faso, saw you in glory. I saw a black man not begging, not afraid, but strong and crying for justice." Denzel blinked rapidly that night. "I told my mother, one day I'll fight for people too like him." The host looked stunned. Denzel covered his mouth. Ibrahim continued. "Years later, when the people of my country needed someone to stand, I remembered your strength, your words, your eyes. I stood not because he was fearless, but because I had seen what courage looked like in you." The room wassailed. Denzel slowly lowered his hand, eyes red with tears. "You're telling me I helped shape a president?" "No, sir," Ibrahim replied. "You helped shape a man who refused to kneel to injustice." A single tear ran down Denzel's face. "Thank you, my brother." The crowd gasped softly, but what the president said next was even more shocking. Denzel leaned closer to the screen. The host sat still, eyes wide. Then Ibrahim spoke again. "Today I speak not just as a president, but as a man who owes a debt. And in Burkina Faso, when someone saves your soul, we do not forget." Denzel shook his head humbly. "No, please. I didn't," Mr. Washington, Traoré said. "I am officially inviting you to be honored in Ouagadougou. But more than that, I want to name a leadership school after you, a place where our children will learn to stand tall, just as I learned from watching you." The crowd gasped again. The host whispered, "Wow!" Denzel's voice cracked. "Mr. President, I don't deserve that." Traoré smiled gently. "That's why you do." The screen went black as the calendar, and there on national TV in front of millions, Denzel Washington buried his face in his hands and sobbed, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming truth that sometimes a single life can echo across oceans and generations. But this was only the beginning. In less than 24 hours, Denzel would be packing his bags. Burkina Faso was calling, and what was waiting there would shake the world. Denzel didn't sleep that night. He kept replaying Ibrahim Traoré's words. His eyes stayed red long after the cameras stopped rolling. By morning, social media had exploded. Denzel and Traoré was trending in over 20 countries. Fans, journalists, and leaders were praising the emotional moment. Some even called it the most powerful TV moment in decades. But while the world was reacting, Denzel was quietly packing his bags, not for a movie, but for something that felt divine. He booked the next available flight to Burkina Faso. No entourage, no spotlight, just him, a small backpack, and a heart full of emotions he couldn't describe. As the plane took off, He looked out the window and whispered, "I don't know what I'm walking into, but I know I have to go." Back in Ouagadougou, President Traoré stood by a window in the palace, staring at the runway in the distance. His aides asked, "Should we prepare the press?" Traoré shook his head. No cameras, no speeches, just truth. Something powerful was about to unfold. Neither man knew that in just 48 hours, they would both cry again, this time together when Denzel's flight landed. There were no flashing cameras, nor carpets, just quiet. A black SUV waited on the tarmac. A single man stood beside it, dressed simply, no military medals. It was him, President Ibrahim Traoré. Denzel stepped out slowly. Their yes met, and for a moment no words were needed. They embraced not as a celebrity and a leader, but as two men whose lives had unexpectedly crossed across continents. "I'm honored you came," Ibrahim said. Denzel smiled faintly. "I didn't come as a star, I came as a brother." The SUV drove them through dusty roads, past neighborhoods, markets, children running barefoot, waving as the car passed. No one knew who was inside. They arrived at a modest house made of sun-worn clay and tin. "This was my home," TR said softly. He opened. The door inside were no guards, no luxury, just old photos, a woven mate, and silence. Then Traoré handed Denzel a wrinkled picture in it. A young boy clung to the hand of an older woman. "She raised me. When my parents worked, day and night chefed me, bathed. Me told me stories of strength." Then quietly he added, "And she's still alive." They drove another hour through winding village roads. Noon said much. Denzel stared at the photo of the woman, a wide smile, gentle eyes, and a strength only time could give. "Where is she now?" Denzel asked. Teresa's jaw tightened. "She still works cleaning classrooms in a rural school." Denzel turned slowly. "At 85, the president nodded. "She never asked for help. She said, 'God gave me legs, I'll use them till he takes them.'" When they arrived, the school looked worn but full of life. Children ran around barefoot, drawing in the dust with sticks. And then she came into view, bent but proud, holding a broom. The same woman from the photo. Denzel stepped out of the car. Frozen Traoré walked toward her. She looked up, and for a moment here, yes, filled with tears. "Ibrahim," she whispered. He rushed. Into her arms, Amahawa, they wept. Then Denzel walked forward. She looked at him and gasped. Her hands trembled. You're him," she said, touching his face. In one quiet courtyard in Burkina Faso, time stood still. 3 souls, 3 stories, one moment that would melt hearts across the world. But what came next would shake the entire nation. Maman Hawa sat between Denzel and President Traoré under the shade of an old baobab tree near the school. Her hands were rough, her back slightly bent, but her voice still warm. She told stories of young Ibrahim, how he would cry in her arms when the nights were cold, how he once gave her his only piece of mango so she wouldn't go hungry. Denzel listened with a softness in his eyes the world rarely saw. Then she reached into the pocket of her old apron. "I kept this all these years," she said. She pulled out a folded yellowed paper, a child's handwriting. It read, "One day I will be a leader, and I will find you, Mama, I promise." Trasped, he remembered he had written that letter at age 9 on her birthday, after she gave him her only piece of bread. Denzel wiped a tear she held on to. Hope, that's the most powerful kind of faith. Suddenly a young student ran toward them barefoot and laughing, holding a cracked plastic ball. "Mama, will you play?" And she did. Still barefoot, still smiling, but something inside. Denzel shifted. He was no longer just visiting. He had found something sacred. That evening, Denzel and Traoré returned to the palace. But the mood had changed. Neither man said much. Both were quiet, thoughtful. Then Traoré stood. "I want to show you something I've never shown anyone outside my family." He led Denzel through a private corridor. Stone wall, quiet footsteps. No guards at the end was a thick wooden door. He unlocked it. Inside was a small room, dimly lit, filled with old books, journals, maps, and own large framed photo. Manhawa and a boy, young Ibrahim, both laughing. This is my real treasure room. Traoré said Denzel was speechless. Traoré picked up an old notebook. Inside were handwritten notes. His first dreams for Burkina Faso. All of this started with her "I'm here," because she believed I was worth something, even when I had. Nothing. Denzel touched the page. Gently you lead, like a son who remembers. Love. Traoré nodded. And I want the world to know that leadership isn't about power, it's about gratitude. The room fell silent. Two great men, one mission to honor the woman who shaped a president, and Denzel had an idea, but it would take everyone by surprise, especially Mama Hawa at dawn. Denzel sat outside on the palace terrace watching the sun rise over. Ouagadougou Mama's face, her laugh, her strength, it kept replaying in his heart. Then Ibrahim joined him. "I had a thought," Denzel said, sipping. "Let's give her the honor she never asked for." Traoré smiled slowly. "I was hoping you'd say." That afternoon, quietly and without alerting the press, they drove back to the village school with a small team. Children gathered. Teachers stood insolence. Mama looked confused. "What's happening then?" Traoré knelt before her, holding a small velvet box. Inside was a golden medallion engraved with her name and the national seal, "For your service to this nation, Asa, mother, teacher, and guardian of hope." He said, voice shaking. The children started clapping. Denzel then stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "And from the world of cinema," he said, pulling out an envelope, "I spoke with my producer this morning. Your story will become a movie, and every cent will go to building schools in your name." Mama Hawa dropped to her knees, sobbing. She had spent her life giving, and now she was receiving. But the biggest surprise was still coming. 3 days later, Denzel Washington returned to Los Angeles for a live TV interview. On one of America's biggest talk shows, it was meant to be lighthearted. Red carpet's upcoming film lauder, but behind his smile, something had shifted as the cameras rolled and the host asked,